Oh, Rico Beard, how you living? I tell you, Rico's in an elite hat today, if you happen to be watching. Just a tremendous piece of headgear. I did not want to take the show in this direction, but Mr. Rico Beard has what he is purporting. All of us right here, right now, are going to listen. I don't want to poison the jury. Kenny, David, me, you, the listener. Rico Beard is saying he has damning evidence that we have a problem with Jared Goff. And on the heels of yesterday's show where I said, look, I thought I was making a fair deal. We win the division and win a playoff game. We pay Jared Goff. Anything less, we don't. Oh, well, let me tell you. I got turned into Satan. You know, I showed up like Johnny Goodtimes, and you guys responded with, because next thing you know, it turned into the Hendon Hooker hour. But Rico has damning evidence that we have a Jared Goff problem and that history may be repeating itself. Mm-hmm. Rico, I'm only listening to your evidence if you put the professorial glasses on.
Okay, well then keep talking. Let me go get
them. Yeah, leave and go get them. Because pre-show, Kenny, you were screening calls and going back and forth. Rico had this like Brian Windhorst aha moment. If you know, you know. And he goes, wait, what if and then the next thing you know, he puts on his little MIT specs, or like he's teaching at an Ivy League university. Here he comes sauntering back in. He's going to present this, and then we, along with you, the listener, have to ascertain as to whether Rico has a point. Oh, there they are. But you got to rest him down the tip of your nose a little bit. Perfect. Now we are ready. Because unlike what other people consider fun, this is actual fun.
This is not how I wear them, but okay.
No, tip of your nose for this presentation.
What I have found out, Mike, is that I think that Jared Goff is what Jared Goff is. Meaning, if you're expecting him to get better, if you surround him with more toys, it is not going to happen. So what I did was I went back and I looked at the Rams Super Bowl year. Because this was, at that time, the Rams were one of the best teams in the NFL. They made it. They lose to New England. But I'm looking at just Jared Goff stats, and I looked at it late in the season where we kind of are right now. Going back, starting with the Detroit game that they played the Lions. They beat the Lions 13-16. Goff was 17-35, 52%, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Okay, middling numbers.
Yeah, the next week, ironically enough, they lose to Chicago. Chicago was a 12-4 team at that time.
This is their Super Bowl run.
Super Bowl run in 2018.
Pressure on.
Pressure is on. They lose to Chicago 15-6. He was 20 of 44, 45%, 0 touchdowns, 4 INTs.
Okay, now that's a nightmare game. Okay.
The week after they played Philly. Philly was 9-7. They lose 30-23. He was 35 of 53 for 66%. No touchdowns, 1 interception.
I'm sensing a trend here.
Well, it gets better, kind of. They then played the 3-13 Cardinals. Amazing, the Cardinals have always been bad. They beat the Cardinals 31-9. He was 19 of 24. 80%, 1 touchdown, no INTs.
But that's still not some amazing game.
And then in the final week, they played the Niners, who were not privileged at the time. The Niners were 4-12. They won 48-32. He was 58%. He threw 4 touchdowns that day, no picks. But then we get to the playoffs.
All right, let's hear this.
In the playoffs, you played Dallas the first round. You beat the Cowboys 30-22. Goff, 15 of 28. Looking at 54%. No touchdowns, no interceptions.
Pretty empty.
The next week, you beat New Orleans. You lost to them earlier in the year. You beat them in the playoffs 26-23. Goff, 25 of 40, 63%, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And then the Super Bowl, 19 of 38, 50%, no touchdowns, 1 interception.
So what you're saying is that what we're delighting in is known as stretch drive Goff.
Yes.
That the last time he faced games of this pressure, that's what he gave you. Everyone knows what you're getting now. Are you telling me I don't want to put words in your mouth. Those glasses are too stately. What are you trying to tell the listeners? That Jared Goff is blank or Jared Goff is a blank?
Jared Goff, to me, is not the greatest. He's not great under pressure. When the game is on the line,
oh boy,
you're going to have to lean on the defense. You're going to have to lean on a running game. Don't rely on Jared Goff to win you the game. Now,
are you calling him? I'm asking the question. I'm not accusing you. Are you calling him mentally soft?
I'm not saying he's mentally soft, Mike.
Okay, I had to ask.
No. I'm not saying he's mentally soft. I'm saying Jared Goff simply is what he is. If you're expecting him to get better, don't hold your breath. This is it. And the Rams decided, you know what?
It's more than that. You're saying if you're expecting him to be what he was earlier in the year,
that's not going to happen.
That, in fact, this version of Goff is what you get in December and January, according to the Rico Beard Institute.
When the pressure is on. Like, think about it. They were 1-6, season was over, and all of a sudden he lights it up. He's not throwing any picks. He's just out there wheeling and dealing, having fun. He starts this year off. That streak keeps going. And all of a sudden it was like, Mike, you've seen it when a team looks up at the scoreboard and was like, oh my God, we're actually winning, and everything changes. They tighten up. They're not playing as loose as they once were. That's Goff. He went from not throwing a pick. I forgot he was like close to the record. And now it's like every game. He's Oprah out there. You know what? Here's a pick. I didn't bring enough picks. You can have a fumble. How about that? Here's 2 fumbles for you instead of a pick. He's turnover prone. When the pressure mounts, this is the Goff that you get. This is why the Rams said, you're good, but we got to do better.
So here's my question. And I don't know if I'm ready to just say, okay, this is gospel. I think it's interesting. And we're in the interesting business, so we can talk about it. But following yesterday's show, it's pretty clear a lot of you are not hip to Jared Goff. Do you put how much value do you put in what Rico has just brought to the table? You can call up and say absolute value. This guy's a choke artist. You could put no value in it. Rico, it's a different team, a different time, a different player, different circumstances. You could put some. I leave it to you. The fact that I think it's interesting, I put some value on it. That he did come here as a reclamation project. We thought he had reclaimed his career. But the first time this team became good, not underdog good, not, hey, we're making a comeback from 1-6 good, but like leader of the pack, we are the hunted good, he has careened off the road over the last month. So I want to throw the number out. I'm very interested. 248-539-9797. David, do we have a Jared Goff pressure problem?
Yeah, I think we do. Listening to those stats, going through them before the show and knowing at the end of that year in December, he was 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Sorry, that doesn't work for me. If December and January is when you're supposed to be playing your best football. That is playoff time. It's playoff football time. And Jared Goff, to me, from what you've presented, isn't that guy. I don't think we need to find out who he is. I think we already know who he is. And Detroit fans, I think, are starting to understand it. I don't think he's going to get better. He is what he is, and that's not good enough. It's not good enough to me for any team. And the Rams got rid of him for that reason.
Yeah. Now, I guess the only saving grace, if you're a big Goff supporter, because even back then, when he plays out in the cold or out in the bad weather, that was a Chicago game. And, well, like I said, that was he threw for 45% in that game, percentage-wise.
Correct. And
4 INTs.
And looking at it, when you kind of look at the good teams, and can you beat good teams? Well, he did earlier in the year, but when December came, Chicago, who was number 1 in their division, a top seed in the NFC,
right,
they lost that game.
And, yeah, Dave, it just tells me – when there's no pressure, he's good. We saw that. And I bought in. I'm thinking, okay, he's turned the corner. But all of a sudden, man, you're fighting for that number 1 overall seed. He's tightened up. 10 turnovers in the last, 4 games?
Yep.
This isn't me just making up some stuff. These are the numbers. The numbers don't lie.
So understand the context as well. We did a show yesterday, and I said if you win the division and you win a playoff game, you sign Jared Goff. I just thought it was easy. And if you don't, you could have different conversations. One is we're moving on. One is we're going to open up the competition. One is you can play this thing out, and we have the franchise tag at our disposal, etc. I was shocked by the response. So on the heels of that, Rico bringing that the Rams Super Bowl run.
And the reason why it's a Super Bowl run, so you can't say, well, that was a bad. No, this was the best team in the NFC. They made it to the Super Bowl.
And had a great running game.
Right,
And had a really good O-line.
So I'm not cherry picking here. This was their best team, and he was the leader of their best team.
And let's face it, he got his lunch money taken by Bill Belichick in one of the worst Super Bowls you've ever watched.
Ever.
I mean, that game was Vikings-Raiders. So I understand why Rico's bringing it up. I'm not sitting here totally agreeing, but guess what? I think it's interesting. 248-539-9797. Let's hear from the people on it. We'll get with your calls. We'll get some ticket texts as well. I've got a prop bet I got to run by Rico. He's our prop bet expert. I've got something for on the board in 30 minutes. Evan and I just said, you know what? We're bringing it to Rico's altar. You get to deliver thumbs up, thumbs down. It's fascinating. It's for tonight.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
Oh boy.
Tell them all about it.